Hi, everyone. I'm Carrie Thibodeau, and I'm the National Director of Programs and Public Policy at the Kidney Foundation of Canada. Welcome all to today's webinar, Cooking Demonstration for Healthier Kidneys. Today we'll begin with a land acknowledgement to acknowledge the lands we now know as Canada and its peoples. As an organization dedicated to supporting people affected by kidney disease nationwide, the Kidney Foundation of Canada's work takes place on traditional Indigenous lands across Canada. Our national office is located in Montreal, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst many First Nations, including the Kanien'kehá:ka of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, the Huron-Wendat, the Abenaki, and the Anishinaabe. The lands upon which we're convening today are the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence here reaches back to time immemorial. We recognize the historical oppression of lands, cultures, and original peoples, and we dedicate ourselves to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. If you know the territory from which you're joining today, please do share it in the chat. The Kidney Foundation of Canada would like to thank our sponsors for the 2024 webinar series, Accenture, Amgen, AstraZeneca, GSK, and Otsuka. Their ongoing support allows us to come together to have broader, bolder, and braver conversations. The information we're going to share in today's webinar is current as of December 3rd, 2024. The information that we're sharing is not intended as medical advice, and it's general in nature. It doesn't necessarily cover all circumstances. While we make every effort to be accurate, we do recommend that you seek professional medical advice for your individual situation. Joining us today in our conversation about kidney-friendly nutrition and its role in health are registered dietitians Anja Webster and Dani Renouf. Anja is a clinical dietitian working at the St. Paul's Hospital Post-Kidney Transplant Clinic. She has experience working in multiple renal modalities, including CKD, PD, and HD. Through her experience in the renal department, she's offered a number of cooking classes specifically geared to patients with kidney disease. She loves listening to stories about food and finding ways to make all foods fit into individual diets. When she's not at work, she can be found hiking around the North Shore or at a nearby park playing with her kids. As for Dani, she is a registered dietitian with over 20 years of experience working with patients in clinics and chronic disease prevention and management. This includes positions within the hospital sector, the private industry, community and public health, and research settings. Currently, Dani works as the provincial dietitian lead for BC Renal, and she's the renal resource dietitian at St. Paul's Hospital and the chair of BC Renal's dietitian committee. She also runs her own private practice, For Elements Nutrition Consulting. We're thrilled to have both Anja and Dani with us today as they not only share their expertise, but also showcase a delightful menu that they've prepared. During today's session, they'll show us how to prepare kidney-friendly dishes that are both nutritious and delicious. So our menu today includes zucchini latkes, crispy sage tofu, bean bourguignon, herb and ricotta stuffed chicken, and vegan fudge brownies. So without further ado, let's welcome Anja and Dani to take us through today's cooking demonstration.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure, Carrie and team, to be here with you and to be with all these wonderful participants. Thank you for having us. I humbly come to you from the unceded territories of the Squamish, Salish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and that's in Vancouver. And it's a privilege to be here on these lands that have been stewarded and looked after by the Indigenous peoples for so many centuries. And I'm a humble learner, so thank you for the opportunity to do that as we talk about food, which has a lot of power in this regard. So why did we start cooking together, Anja and I, back in 2022 and doing this program, Come Cook With Us, through the Kidney Wellness Hub? The real reason we wanted to do that was you, and we wanted to engage with you. That was so important to us coming out of the pandemic. And what we really wanted to do was to offer practical support to people living with kidney disease, their families, in their own kitchens. So we wanted to make this a personal and fun experience for everybody. We also work within a hospital setting, as you heard Carrie say, and so we wanted to get out of the hospital walls and just kind of branch out into the community and learn more about how people navigate as they live and cook and eat with a chronic disease. So we wanted this to be a learning opportunity for you, but we also wanted to learn and grow as a result of doing these programs and your feedback. And I think we're continuing to do that in a really successful way. Hopefully, you will come out of today having a bit more confidence in the kitchen, unless you already have that confidence, which is wonderful. Maybe you want to, add a few different spices to your recipes, or maybe you want to try a new recipe that we featured today. Whatever you decide to do, make sure that all the ingredients you use are accessible to you. You can make swaps. You can ask us questions about that. We want to make it easy for you to cook at home and to prepare simple dishes that aren't going to take all your energy, but that are going to be delicious, tasty, and popular in your household. We also really look at reducing food waste. So in our segments, we talk a lot about how to use one recipe in different ways throughout the week, or use recipes that you can freeze easily and save for another day, or save for leftovers in some capacity. We also really want to promote joyful eating. That's important to us. So a lot of our recipes are tied to festive holiday eating. No matter what you celebrate and when you celebrate, food can always be a celebratory vehicle and bring people together. Finally, we know that the research shows plant-based eating is a benefit to people living with kidney disease and other chronic diseases. So many of our recipes feature plant-based ingredients. Not only is that better for your overall health, it's also better for our planet and better for our pocketbooks. So I look forward to going through these recipes with you along with Anja. And we will start with the zucchini latkes. But before we do, I do want to put in a quick plug for our Eating Well webpage on the Kidney Wellness Hub, where you can find all of these videos, you can find recipes, and you can also link to register for our upcoming cooking class on January 27th. So please check out the Eating Well page on the Kidney Wellness Hub, and we'll have the link in the chat as well for you. So let's start with our vegetarian zucchini latkes.
Hello and happy holidays. I'm so excited to share this recipe with you. It's based on a Hanukkah recipe for latkes. And latkes are Jewish, but they're also Middle Eastern. Like many countries in the Middle East take a spin on latkes because Jewish people live all over the Middle East, right? So I grew up having this when I was a kid, in its rendition with lots of herbs. So I'm just so excited to make it. It's really my comfort food, and I love zucchini. It's winter, but zucchini just is such a warm weather veggie, and so I'm excited to prepare this with you. What I've done is I have grated the zucchini, and then I've left it in a cheesecloth like this so that the juices drain out. And I've drained out most of the juices, which you can see here. This is really important because what this does is it allows the liquid to be removed, and so it's going to make a really kind of nice pancake that I'm looking for.
And if you don't have a cheesecloth, you can just use a regular dish towel. That's what I do when I make latkes at home. I just use a regular dish towel, which would work just fine.
And because I'm old world, I just end up hand washing this and using it again. So
there you go.
So I'm a bit old world. Anyways, I love a cheesecloth for that, but yes, a dish towel is great too. And then I've got my green onion. I'm just going to throw that in there. I love that. And I'm going to crack 2 eggs.
And this would also be, if you are worried about your potassium, zucchini is a low potassium vegetable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So another way to get something different than potatoes in.
It's a great alternative, yeah. And then I'm going to add some cornstarch. I might need to ask you to get me a spatula, please. And then I will add some olive oil to my pan here, which is already hot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, and we're just gonna,
So we've got all the basic latkes ingredients,
so good.
but zucchini, I love it. I'm very excited to try this.
I know.
So.
Guess what I made the other day? I made cabbage fritters.
Oh,
Yeah.
because we do everything with cabbage.
I
here.
love cabbage.
I'm surprised we didn't do it today.
I know, I know. It's so good. So I've got my hot pan here, and you know I love my cookie scoop. So I'm just gonna take a scoop, and I'm going to place it in my pan.
And you know, you didn't even need any salt. No salt in
No
there.
salt in sight.
And you don't need it.
I sometimes do put spices, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Like I'll put like my spice blends, or I'll do smoked paprika. I really love smoked paprika on everything. And up to you what you want to use. Really, chili flakes. You could throw jalapenos in there if you like something a bit spicy. Absolutely, that will work. So I'm just gonna wash my hands and let that kind of set along the sides like a pancake, right? And then I can flip it more easily. I often encourage people to make this because it's also got a good source of protein, and it's a great way to get extra fiber in. A lot of people ask me, well, how do I bump up my fiber? How do I bump up my protein? This is a 2-for-1. You get to do both. You don't have to fry this in the pan either. You can make these in the oven. You can put them in little muffin cups and make little muffins. You know, we're trying to do a latke, so that's, you know, more traditional, but you could certainly change the shape of it if you wanted using that same batter.
Yeah, and then if you do them all on a cookie sheet, you could get 12 going at the
Easy,
same time rather
right.
than one. Yeah.
You can batch cook. They freeze really well as well, so you can freeze them and pull them out for an easy quick breakfast or a snack after school or work. They're really fantastic for that.
And I love that we're adding another way to use vegetables.
I was just
right?
gonna
We do
say,
really forget
yeah,
about it sometimes
yeah.
in the winter when they're not as available.
Yeah.
Zucchini, where we live, definitely is available a lot of the year. So it's a great way to add a green vegetable in the middle of winter.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Great tip. So yeah, I think it's almost, you see how it's sliding around? It's almost ready to flip. Ha!
Oh,
Done.
look at that. Look at that beautiful color.
I love this. This is so great. When it works, it works. When
I
it
know,
doesn't,
you did it with a
you
spoon.
just, I know. When it doesn't, you just, you know, try again, right? That's the beauty of cooking. So this is our beautiful zucchini latke for the holidays. We hope that you really enjoy adding more vegetables to your life, but just have fun playing with your food. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Dani and Anja, thank you so much for walking us through this delicious recipe. And we thought we would reach out to everybody who's watching today and just ask you your position on this and whether you've tried these. So latkes are a great way to add veggies to your diet. And we just thought we would ask how you prefer to eat your veggies. So we have 3 options in the poll there. You can see fresh in salads, grilled, steamed, or sauteed, or blended into sauces and soups. Okay. So we can see that a lot of people do incorporate their vegetables fresh in their salad, so it's 34%. Most of us do actually grill, steam, or saute our vegetables. We're at nearly 60% for that. And then a few people do blend and hide their vegetables in sauces and soups. So that's an interesting result as well. Dani and Anja, would you like to comment on that?
I think it's a great way to add vegetables when you're grilling them. We do a great sheet pan recipe as well, where we put the chicken or the tofu together with the vegetables all in one into the oven. A lot of the time cooking takes energy, and this is a great way to do it where you're saving energy. You just stick it in the oven and walk away. And yeah, I'm excited to hear if people have ideas around how you know, other recipes that we can feature, but that's a good one as an example that we've already featured.
Yes, I was gonna say as well with that it is great to do in the winter. We didn't really have it as an option this poll, but another great way to add veggies is roasting them in the oven. It really brings out the sweetness of especially root vegetables. And as Dani said, it makes it kind of a quick and easy thing when you're doing a sheet pan meal. And then you can store them in the fridge and throw them into salads, or even hide them in soups and sauces. We will be doing in the beef bourguignon, there are some veggies, so they're kind of hidden in there. And then with the fritters, you can use any kind of veggie. We did it with zucchini, which I didn't mention in the video, but too, if you've got where you live, if it's more available in the summer, I freeze it, I grate it in the summer and I freeze it. And then I pull them out to make fritters later on in the year. Or as Dani said, you can make them in the summer and then pull out the fritters in the winter. So you can freeze your vegetables and use them when you don't have the energy to cook or it's dark outside, you just want to pull something cozy out. So and then we're doing the questions after, right? So we'll just move on to the next video. Crispy sage tofu. I'll let the video speak for itself and then we can chat about it after.
We're going to be taking a spin on a traditional Thanksgiving sort of fall dish, and we're going to be using some sage to make some crispy sage tofu. What I've done first is I've pressed the tofu. This isn't something you have to do for this dish, but because tofu is so full of moisture, if you're gonna fry it to help it stay in that texture, it's really good to press it and take the water out. So I put it in a paper towel with a plate and something heavy like a cutting board or a stack of cookbooks on top. And like you can see, if I squeeze how much liquid really came out of there. So a lot.
I can take that.
Thank you.
Now, tofu gets a bit of a rap for, you know, being a soy product, and a lot of people are hesitant for health reasons to incorporate it into their diet. But we know that actually that evidence is not true, and people who eat soy all around the world actually fare better in terms of health outcomes. So we really encourage you to give this recipe a try. It's a great way to start getting to know tofu and enjoying it as part of your regular routine.
Yeah, this crispy breadcrumbs on the side are going to sell you for this dish, I think. So we've got some breadcrumbs. I'm going to put them in a bowl. And then we want those kind of hearty flavors. So I've got some nutmeg here, garlic powder, sage. I'm just gonna chop up the sage here. And Dani, do you want to show us? We've got whole fennel seeds, and I think we should put some crushed in there. So how can we?
These smell outstanding. They're whole seeds. I love buying whole seeds, and I just love kind of crushing them. So it's just a lot of fun. Of course, you can buy a spice grinder.
Or the spices ground already.
Or buy them ground, but it's not the same as doing them by hand. But what you're trying to do is kind of take the pestle and just push the spices to the edge of the mortar. And the mortar has these ridges, so basically what you get is a bit of a powder.
Oh, and I'm gonna use some rosemary. Really, like, this is what you can put on the side of your holiday meal instead of to go along with your turkey or your roast. So I'm really trying to get all those flavors in here that you would put. The rosemary, the sage, the nutmeg. Okay.
Nutmeg's a really clever add-on because it's very meaty. So you're gonna really get a lot of meatiness in that.
A little bit from
They are
it smells
broken.
really good. Yeah.
I broke up a lot of the seeds, but these fennel seeds are pretty hard.
So I've got my tofu. You can cut this into small pieces, but to help with frying and really getting it crispy, I like them a little bit bigger. And what I've got here is some plant-based or regular milk, whatever you are desiring, and our sage and breadcrumb mixture. So you can take the tofu and you bread it in the cornstarch, shake off all that extra cornstarch, and then the milk, and then your breadcrumbs. And the milk and the cornstarch are what is going to get these breadcrumbs to stick. And then we're putting it in a hot pan, and you're shallow frying it. It's the holidays, we're not baking it. You could, I mean really, there's nothing wrong with baking it, but we're gonna fry it because it's gonna get that really nice, rich crispiness. Great. Okay, and then you just wanna turn them over. You can see how nice and crispy that's getting.
It smells amazing.
And that sage smells so good,
So
right?
good.
It's that fresh sage that's really giving off those holiday vibes. And then you can serve this as an addition to your holiday meal. I'm not saying you have to make tofu for everybody instead of your turkey, instead of your roast, but sometimes it's nice to have that plant-based alternative and you never know how much people are actually going to eat.
It's amazing, like when you put this as part of kind of like a Mediterranean platter, it's a great add-on. And I even like it kind of cubed, like I would do the tofu in cubes, and then you have little toothpicks so people can kind of pick up a cube of tofu that's been battered like this. That's also a really nice way of serving it. So hopefully you will try this recipe, really give tofu a chance, as I like to say, and enjoy embracing the flavors of the holidays while eating some vegetarian options.
Well, thank you both. This is a really inspiring recipe that you've just presented, especially for those of us who don't have a lot of familiarity with cooking with tofu. And I really love the addition of the sage, especially at this time of year. We have another poll for everybody. As Dani and Anja have said, tofu is a very kidney-friendly protein choice. How familiar are you with cooking plant-based proteins in general that support kidney health? So very familiar, somewhat familiar, or not very familiar. We'll give everybody just a minute to respond. There we go. Most of our participants today are not that familiar so far. So today's going to be a really good opportunity to have some experience, see how it's prepared, and see how delicious it can be. 27% are somewhat familiar, and then we do have a group, nearly 15% of people who are very familiar. So Dani, Anja, any comments?
Yeah, so I'm glad to see people are not very familiar. So hopefully after today, you'll have some inspiration on how to cook tofu, because it can be one of those proteins that people either really have tried and then it wasn't very good, or they didn't know how to cook with it. Because when you go to the store, do I buy soft? Do I buy medium? Do I buy firm, extra firm? And they're all going to be very different. The website does have lots of recipes. In this one, we used extra firm, and that's really my favorite form of tofu to use. You can really use it in any recipe that calls for chicken. And because it's not very rich in flavor, it can absorb any sauce or any flavor or breading that you use. So I find breading tofu to be a very good start, especially if you fry it, because it's got that crispy, it's kind of like a chicken tender or tender. So hopefully trying a recipe like today's can be a good way to kind of get you over that hump of incorporating tofu.
Yeah, and a couple of other great sort of tips that I learned about tofu as I got more comfortable cooking with it is that when you buy the brick, if you freeze it and then you thaw it back out in the freezer, the tofu becomes more porous as it freezes. So when you thaw it out, you don't need to drain it and put a block on top of it to drain out the liquid. You can just drain it, you can just open the packaging straight out of the fridge, cut it into cubes, and do exactly the recipe that Anja just showed us. The other reason that it's nice to freeze the tofu, first, is that as it becomes more porous, all those sodium-free flavors that you want to put in, because you're trying to watch your salt, really get soaked in. So the flavor becomes a lot better and the texture becomes firmer. So it's a little bit easier to eat for those who aren't comfortable with the tofu texture. We use extra firm tofu in a lot of our recipes because it does kind of mimic chicken, as Anja said. So you could start with an extra firm tofu option. What is so important about these plant-based proteins, including tofu, is that they do help to reduce the acid load on the kidneys, which protects that environment around the kidney a little bit better. So not to say you have to go completely vegetarian or vegan, but if you try to adopt a flexitarian diet where you have a combination of animal-based and plant-based proteins, including tofu, that's really going to help your kidneys have a better, better long-term outcome. And of course, animal protein is more anabolic. You build more muscle using animal protein, but not all of us are trying to do that. We're just trying to hang on to the muscle we have. So it's perfectly fine to do a combination of plant and animal proteins for that purpose. Great. I think we're on to our next dish. Speaking of plants, it's going to be a bean bourguignon. So I know you might say, oh dear, why did these dietitians take beef bourguignon and just turn it upside its head? Well, it wasn't me who did it. it's a chef who's also a patient partner, Chef Chris, who put this recipe together. So he's a professional, he knows ingredients really well. And this is one of my favorite recipes to make at home. I've made it every single time and it's been a hit. You can use the slow cooker to make it, and I'm really excited for you to have a look.
Happy holidays. It's cold outside, it's rainy, it's freezing, and I need to warm up. So this is what I make when I need to warm up.
Okay.
I love this comforting stew, and it's kind of like that post-holiday, you know, January moment where I put all these ingredients together and I just feel really well nourished, and it's very soothing. So I hope you love it too. This is one of my favorites. It's one of the chefs on the Kidney Foundation of Canada that put this together, Chef Chris. So thanks to him for this wonderful recipe. All right,
What are we using? We've
What
got
are we
lots of
making?
beans, lots of fiber.
I've got some heat.
Okay.
I've got some oil. I'm gonna put some olive oil in here, and I will use a bit more because I like olive oil in this. And what I'm going to do is, of course, I have mushrooms because life is just so good with mushrooms. I'm gonna pop those in, and they're gonna saute. And I'm going to add some smoke to this. Like if you don't want to add ham, like you're making a split pea and ham soup, but you don't want to add ham because it's processed and you want to try to reduce that or go plant-based. Smoked paprika.
Oh, it smells so smoky.
This is Hungarian smoked paprika. Yeah, I go to town on it. I love it. And I also love the color. Like if you look, it's already that burnt orange. You know, it just screams wintertime. I don't know, I find it so festive. And that's sauteed already. So I'm just gonna actually take it off the heat.
So you're just getting it
I'm
a
just
little
getting
bit.
it a little bit happy and
Okay,
coated.
because it's gonna cook, right?
It's gonna cook.
Yeah.
It's gonna cook. And then next I'm gonna just do my onions. These I'm gonna do till they're lightly browned. The reason I do that is because I want them really soft.
I'm gonna get you some garlic. I don't think.
Ooh, that would be fun.
I
Some
see
garlic would
any.
be great.
And add that. I'm sure you're gonna want some
Thank you.
in there. So we're gonna mince some garlic. You're caramelizing some onions.
Yeah, that's looking really good. I think what I'm gonna add next is my carrots. So this is a bit of a mirepoix or sofrito. If I had celery, it would be like that. So the trifecta of deliciousness: onion, carrot, celery. So good. Basis for many dishes, right? Well, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Okay.
That's great. I'm gonna throw that in. It doesn't have to be very finely chopped
Okay.
because I'm gonna be cooking it and it's gonna get really soft. So that's beautiful. Thank you.
Onions.
Yeah, going with that. And then we're gonna add some thyme. And I think there's some pepper around. If you want, you can add pepper to this. You can add turmeric, you can add other spices, you can make it fun.
Your favorite kind of hearty.
Oh my gosh, you know it. I look forward to winter for this reason. Good, and then we're just going to add first the flour or cornstarch.
And that's gonna thicken it up, right?
That's right, but we're gonna cook it a little bit first. This is kind of fun. And then we're going to deglaze, what's called deglazing the pan. So we're gonna get this coated, and then we're gonna add water, which is going to remove all the kind of scrapings on the bottom of the pan. It's called deglazing, and that's a really great way to put more flavor in. You can use wine if you want, but I use water.
It is the holidays. Definitely go for
Yes.
using some wine.
Yes,
You've got
if
an
you
open
want,
bottle
and you're
on
cooking
hand.
it, I think that's okay. I'm just going to use some sodium-free vegetable stock. So that's going right in there.
Yeah, add the beans.
Yeah, I'm gonna add the, sorry, I added the mushrooms. I'm gonna do the beans.
So we've got black beans and cannellini beans.
I love that. This is my favorite kind of bean. I love the white beans. And then the black beans are just kind of this is like a spin-off of beef bourguignon, right? It's a plant-based bourguignon. So it's got that dark bean in it to try to mimic the flavor of beef. And then we're going to plate it up with some fresh parsley and you could do crispy bread on the side. You could have this with rice, you could have this with pasta, whatever grains that you like. Really great all around base for lots of delicious winter flavors. So I hope you enjoy.
Well, this is the perfect time of year for comfort food as we start to see cooling weather, and there are people across Canada who are starting to see snowfalls. So that was a great recipe to share with us. Thank you. I hope everybody's feeling inspired to try some plant-based meals. And so for our next poll, we're asking the question, have you ever tried making a plant-based version of a traditional comfort dish? So we see that quite a few people have made a plant-based version of their particular traditional comfort dish. We all have particular comfort dishes that mean something to us. So nearly half of the people who are part of our webinar today have done that. We have quite a few people saying that they haven't yet, but they would like to try. And then 23% who say they usually stick to their traditional recipes. So any comments, Dani and Anja?
Yeah, so if you'd like to try, I'm really keen on this group. It's not that hard. You make your traditional recipes with, say, chicken, but you replace some of the chicken with just a can of beans that you rinse and drain. So say you're making chicken and you want a white bean because color-wise it matches, or like we were saying, if you're replacing beef with a bean, like a black bean or a lentil might be really nice. But you could do your burgers like that. So you just kind of mince everything together, bean and beef. You could do a chicken stew type meal, but add some beans to it. It's very, very nice to do it that way. Again, it's kind of like giving you that flexibility to still include the meat protein, the animal protein, but you're also kind of flavoring it with beans. And that's a really great transition to sort of adding more plant-based proteins to your diet. So I'm really excited about that 23%. Maybe after today, you might give your traditional recipes a try. And if you're not ready to do that, that's okay. You know, knowing that plant-based proteins are really important, maybe down the road, it's something that you might try, or please look at our recipes to see if anything there inspires you. And keep going yeses. That's amazing. Love to hear what recipes you have, and you can always email us with your ideas and we'll feature them.
Yes, thanks, Dani. That's exactly what I was going to say. You don't have to go straight to go from your beef bourguignon to completely beans. Just swapping out some of it. It also not only is better for your heart, but as Dani mentioned at the beginning, beans can be a lot less expensive. And because of all the fiber in beans, they're going to help fill you up for longer and help with blood sugar management. So a really great way to kind of put your toe in the water is to add some beans to your dish that you're already making, and then it'll stretch the protein a little bit further, and you still get that kind of health benefit and kind of try out the taste of the beans or the plant-based protein. So moving on, we've got another recipe for you. And as Dani was saying, we really promote flexitarian. We don't want you don't have to switch all plant-based, just trying to incorporate more plants. And we want to show other ways to add flavor or plants to your meal. So the next recipe we have is a herb and ricotta stuffed chicken. So beautiful recipe that's easy to make and really looks beautiful on a plate. Except for, well, you'll find when we see the video.
Happy holidays and welcome to another episode of Come Cook With Us. Today we're going to be making some stuffed chicken breasts. So to make that, we're first going to combine our stuffing. We're going to do some ricotta. This is going to be kind of a lighter meal. You know, when you've just been eating so heavy all over December and throughout the holidays, this is a bit of a lighter, fresher take on a New Year's meal.
This is still quite festive and kind of a little bit, you know, a cut above just doing regular chicken. And I love the ricotta because it creates that creaminess without a lot of the fat, the saturated fat. So it's a really nice choice. And it's also really high in protein, so it gives you a good protein boost. Great choice.
So we've got ricotta, pepper, some sauteed garlic and olive oil. I've already done. And then you're gonna do your favorite fresh herbs. It's gonna add lots of flavor without adding salt. We've got some parsley here.
I watch grandmothers cook in villages all around the world. That's what I do, like in my spare time. I watch this on Instagram, and I'm so amazed at how wonderful these dishes turn out with very little kitchen equipment.
Okay, so we've got the pepper, we've got the fresh herbs, your favorite herbs. We've got some lemon juice for that citrus. We've got ricotta, we've got garlic. Mix that all together, egg, and the egg to bind it all together, thank you. Then you're gonna take your chicken breast. If you wanna be really fancy, and if you have really big, thick chicken breasts, you are gonna wanna cut them in half, butterfly it, not all the way, like you're making a little pocket that you can put this stuffing in. Ours are quite thin here, so what I'm gonna do to try to be a little fancy, I'm gonna see if I can do it, is roll them in half like that. It ooze out a little bit, but we're okay. It's not quite hot enough, hey? So you're just browning it because you're gonna be cooking it in the oven. What you're doing is searing in those chicken juices. So probably a couple minutes per side, maybe about 3 minutes per side.
Yep.
And then you're gonna put it in the oven at 350, where it's gonna cook until the chicken reaches an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, which is gonna take about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on how thick your chicken breast is. So check it so you don't dry it out.
Is this kind of, yeah, we can
These are
transfer
almost,
that.
we can transfer them onto our pan.
Perfect, I can help with that, and then maybe you can help me with the oven piece.
Yes.
Okay, amazing. This smells so good.
Pop it in here.
Great. And so that oven is at 175?
Or 350 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
And then again about a half an hour. So while that cooks, we're gonna make our red pepper sauce.
I'm so excited.
Okay, to serve up our chicken, we're gonna make a delicious pepper sauce. Dani had these great peppers that did you roast these ahead of time?
I
and then freeze
did,
them?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I like these little peppers, and I like roasting them just with olive oil. And then I freeze them and have them ready for, you know, moments like this.
Perfect. And then in here, this is just garlic and olive oil.
I love that you're layering so many flavors together. Chicken is a bit bland, you know, so what you're doing is adding so many layers of flavor with this coulis, with the ricotta, with the herbs, with the lemon juice, with the garlic. No salt in sight.
No salt.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's not what I want.
What are you looking for?
I wanted pepper, but I don't think I need it.
Okay.
Then you're gonna process this
Yeah, I can help you with that.
in your fancy
In my
contraption
magic
here.
bullet. Okay.
And then if you used red peppers, I mean, we used these yellow and orange ones. If you used red, you'd have this beautiful red
Yeah.
color, but now you've got this beautiful orange color. And then as our chicken comes out of the oven, we will warm this up and plate it on top of our chicken stuffed with ricotta. Now we've got this beautiful orange pepper coulis that we've heated up, and you're just gonna spoon it all over that chicken.
This looks really great. I'm excited to try it, and I love the colors on the plate. We hope that you really enjoy adding more vegetables to your life, but just have fun playing with your food. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I think this recipe was a great example of joyful and delicious kidney-friendly cooking. For our next poll, we'd like to hear about how you add flavor and spice to your meals. What's your favorite way to flavor a kidney-friendly dish? And we have a few options here. The first is fresh herbs. The second is spices. And then the third is citrus zest and juice. All of these can add really delicious flavor without adding a lot of salt, of course, to your meal. So we'll give it a couple of seconds and then we'll see what everybody had to say. So spices, far and away, the most commonly used. But lots of people are also using fresh herbs and citrus zest and juice. So Anja and Dani, do you have any comments or would you like to say more about that?
I did see somebody pop up in the chat saying all of the above, and definitely using all of them, even using them all together is a really great way to add flavor without adding salt. And in the summer, you might be geared more toward the fresh herbs and maybe citrus when they're more available and kind of fresh, light tasting. And in the winter, you may be more geared toward using kind of those aromatic herbs and spices that are going to bring more depth to your dishes. So really experiment. And that's why we love the cooking, because you can totally experiment without worrying about the science. Whereas in baking, there's a lot more science. So you can add more or less of herbs depending on what you like. Like, I would have never dreamed of adding that much smoked paprika as Dani did in that bean bourguignon. And it was so good. And it's because I'm fearful of it still. So it's good when I see Dani be abundant with her spices, and then it makes me braver in the kitchen. So start with a little bit, and then you can always add more to your taste when it comes to cooking.
If there's one thing that I can impart, is that you are going to change your game in the kitchen when you start really experimenting with spices. It's the biggest reason why cooking becomes joyful, in my opinion, and it becomes so much easier to be on a lower sodium diet, a lower salt diet, when you understand and know how to combine spices together. And so, yes, absolutely, there's no wrong answer, as Anja said. And all spices are a very good source of antioxidants. And antioxidants are basically like little helpers to help reduce the stressors that we have on our bodies. And that's a really important reason why spices should be part of your day. You can do sweet spices like cinnamon, or you can do savory things like paprika. So antioxidant sources that are natural and inexpensive in some capacity, depending on what spices you have in the house. I know sometimes turmeric and cumin and those kind of Middle Eastern spices can be more expensive, but you can buy them at the smaller shops for a better price than at the bigger grocery stores. So that's where I usually get mine. All right, and so no kind of menu is complete without dessert, right? And we want you to know we love dessert. We don't shy away from it, but we understand that people are living with diabetes, and watching blood sugars is really important. So this vegan fudge brownie that we're featuring next, it's easy to put together, I hope. And it really abides by all the sort of sugar rules that we would put out for diabetes. It's a really favorite one for kids as well, if you have a household with young kids like Anja and I do. And it's a really fun holiday recipe. So enjoy watching this one.
Happy holidays. Welcome to another episode of Come Cook With Us. Today we're going to be making some vegan fudge brownies. To start with, we've got black beans because they give you lots of fiber and are very well hidden in these brownie recipes. These are going to make it moist, and they're going to actually make it quite fudgy because of the way they're going to be processed in here. You're not even going to know that there's black beans in here. We're going to put some avocado or olive oil. Then you're going to add a flax egg. You do not have to use flax. You can use 2 eggs. This is 2 tablespoons of flax mixed with a 1/4 cup of water to make it that binding consistency that you would have with eggs. Okay, so we've got the flax egg. We're gonna have some cocoa powder. Okay. How much cocoa powder? You got 1/2 cup of cocoa powder here. Put that in there. You're gonna put a little bit of peppermint and vanilla extract. So in there. We've got maple syrup for your sweetness. And baking powder. And okay, first we're gonna
You want me to blend this?
Can you
for
blend that a little bit?
Yeah, I can blend
And
that
you're
a
gonna
little bit.
do it until it's smooth. Oh, a pinch of salt. I forgot. Here you go.
Yeah. Throw that on there. Bam.
Tiny bit of salt in baking. It's okay.
So this has to come to a pureed consistency?
Yeah, you want it
Okay.
kind of soft. Yeah. You're really hiding those black beans.
Love it.
Okay, we're adding, now we're also not adding more fiber here.
Yes.
This is spelt flour. You can use whole wheat flour. You could probably use white flour as well. But we really are making these dense, nutrition dense, and fiber filled. Good for your gut.
Awesome.
So if you
Pop
can
that in,
mix
sure.
that in, and then you just want it to pulse it a few times just to combine it.
Got it? Yeah. Pulse a few times. Yeah.
Pan right here, in this bowl right here.
Okay.
So it is a bit thick, which is okay.
And I like that these are nut-free because, you know, if you're going to a party with kids and, you know, we have to be so careful with allergies, I feel like this is a really nice Christmas dessert or holiday dessert or, you know, any time of year dessert.
So I'm not measuring my chocolate chips because I feel like
you're generous with
you
those.
can use your heart to any
You
recipe.
like chocolate?
Yeah, I do. I feel like any chocolate chip cookie recipe or recipe that tells you how many to put in is wrong. You should just do a few handfuls
It's
of it.
totally incorrect. And you should double it.
Do a few handfuls.
I love it.
Okay, now we're going to spoon it out
Yes.
into our parchment lined. I'm just
Alright.
gonna cut off this extra bit so it doesn't catch on fire.
Yep.
Then you're gonna press it into your pie dish or prepared baking sheet and put it in the preheated oven, which is at 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and bake it for about a half an hour or until the top gets dry and a little bit cracked.
So that's 175 Celsius. So it's not very high heat.
So low heat, so it's gonna dry out a little bit. And then we're gonna melt some chocolate that we're gonna drizzle on top. Okay, we've let our brownie cool and I've just melted some chocolate with coconut oil. I did it in the microwave, but if you don't have a microwave, you can just do it on a double boiler.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
this is awesome.
wow, I love the peppermint. Festive.
And then we have to make it festive with some peppermint candy canes that I've crushed up.
yeah, let's just.
Oh,
Oh,
kinda-
yeah. Ooh. I
They're
see what you
kinda
mean.
sticky.
Yeah.
They're really
Good job crushing.
There you go.
You really candy crushed that. Okay, here we go. That looks great.
Perfect.
Beautiful. And that chocolate's going to set and it's going to look
Yeah, so
great.
let that harden and set before you dig into it.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
I love cooking with you.
You too.
And I hope you do too.
Well, thank you both for sharing such a delicious dessert recipe. It's really great to know that we don't have to deprive ourselves of something sweet, especially during the holidays. So at this stage, we have a little bit of time left. I'm happy now to open the discussion so that we can answer any of the questions that we have from our audience. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and submit them by typing them into the Q&A box. And one quick reminder that we can't offer specific medical advice for particular issues. So do reach out to your healthcare team if you have any specific questions. And so this first question is for either of you, Dani or Anja. We have a question from somebody asking what we can replace cornstarch with.
Sure. So you can replace cornstarch with tapioca or ground flax or really any flour that you have. So you can use just regular flour or gluten-free flour. Why I like cornstarch is it doesn't clump up as much. I find it's just easier to mix in, but you can certainly swap it out for any of those other options.
Wonderful, thank you. We do have a question from somebody who says that they have kidney stones and they're sensitive to oxalate. So do these recipes take into account oxalate intake recommendations?
I think so. When it comes to oxalates, and we can't get into too much detail because we don't know your history, but in general, if you're hydrating, making sure you're flushing out the oxalates, having calcium-rich food will help. I think the only recipe in this one is the brownies, which have the chocolate, which is high in oxalates. Everything else, I think, should be okay. Usually, as long as you're having a variety of foods, it's going to be the best for in general.
Yeah, we try to accommodate that. So a lot of our recipes are trying to accommodate people who have stones as well. So we kind of try to keep things to, really high fiber diets, the lower oxalate vegetables. And just because I work in kidney stones with patients a lot, I know there are a lot of lists out there online that have extensive restrictions. And to Anya's point, please do speak to your healthcare team about that if you're someone living with oxalate stones, because a lot of the restrictions, can be discussed with your healthcare team so that you can have a varied diet. I just wanted to make sure you do loop back to them, because it's really important not to restrict foods that you don't have to.
That's great advice. Thank you very much. We do have a tofu question for you. So somebody has asked whether you can marinate the tofu.
Yes, short answer, yes, definitely. You can marinate the tofu. It's going to absorb more of that flavor if you marinate it. A lot of recipes suggest to, oh my goodness, press it before you do that, or just make sure you're using extra firm tofu so that it has more ability to absorb the flavors, and then marinate it in the fridge. So still want to keep it food safe in that way. And then I don't recommend using soft or medium firm if you're gonna marinate, because it'll fall apart.
Yeah, and just remember, marinades that you buy prepared may be higher in sodium. So if you're choosing a marinade that you bought in store, just make sure you dilute it out with extra, olive oil, or sesame oil is really beautiful as well with tofu. And then adding some type of acid, so lemon juice or vinegar to that, just to dilute out the higher sodium marinades that might be available out there. But ideally, it's to make your own at home. But if you can't, dilution is a great way to reduce the salt.
Good tip. The next question is really around the nutritional value of different beans. So one of our participants today, somebody in our audience, asked about swapping black-eyed peas for other beans in these stews. And that includes, they're asking too about burgers and casseroles and other dishes. So this individual is at stage 5, but I think this is a question that can apply to anyone.
Great. So I think the question is around, is one bean better than the other for nutrition? And, beans in general offer an array of benefits, including fiber, protein, many vitamins and minerals, and they're also a good source of complex carbohydrates, so low glycemic index carbohydrate. They won't absorb as quickly for carbs in your bloodstream. So they're really, really good. In terms of which bean should I choose, I would really suggest playing with the recipe and making sure it turns out the way you like it, so you enjoy eating it. Use that bean. You're getting nutritional benefits from all of them. And also there's traditional cuisine as well to keep in mind. So Middle Eastern cuisine uses a lot of lentils. Other cuisines might use different types of beans. So keep that in mind. But I would say not to worry too much about, oh, I better choose this bean over the other because it's going to give me way more nutrition. I think just including them is a great start. So it sounds like you're already thinking about doing that.
Okay, great. So we have time for one last question before we wrap up for today. But I am going to choose one that has a part A and a part B, because they both relate to cheese. So we have somebody asking whether you can substitute cottage cheese for ricotta, and then the amount of sodium. So the question is around, do all cheeses have the same sodium level, or does it vary from one type to another?
So I'm assuming that's the cottage cheese for the ricotta in the chicken. And yes, but the cottage cheese is going, so kind of answering A and B together. The cottage cheese is higher in sodium. So if you're buying just the regular cottage cheese off the grocery store shelf, it's quite high in sodium compared to ricotta, which is a low sodium cheese, which is why we used it in this recipe. If you buy the low sodium cottage cheese, so those are typically the cottage cheese curds, that would be a better alternative and higher in protein than the ricotta, and you'd still get the low sodium. So you kind of want to do your label reading when you're at the store and comparing different cheeses, because even when you get into the harder cheeses, a mozzarella is going to be lower sodium than like a harder cheese like cheddar. But then you get some more flavor with some of those stronger cheeses, so maybe you're using less. So it's going to be really playing around with flavors and then kind of doing the work in the store and label reading. Dani, I don't know if you have anything.
You're the expert on this, so I 100% defer to you on cheese. And I think I like your idea of, we talk about grating cheese quite often in our recipes and in our classes, and using it as an accessory to heighten the flavor of the food rather than trying to make it a source of protein or make it the basis of our meal. So I really like how you said, look at what flavor profiles work for you and how you want to bring those out, and use cheese kind of like an accessory to that. So then you can have more variety in your cheeses as well.
Thank you. That is a really good way of incorporating everything and being flexible. So I really appreciate that has come up multiple times in answering questions and in the various recipes. We're going to have to wrap up for today. Thank you both, Anja, and Dani, for showing us how to prepare these really delicious kidney-friendly recipes. And thank you to each and every one of you who joined us today. We really hope you enjoyed the webinar. If you want to revisit the recipes at any time, you can find them on kidneycommunitykitchen.ca, and we have over 250 other recipes as well that you can try that are kidney-friendly. The Kidney Community Kitchen is an excellent resource to support you on your journey toward healthier eating. It offers helpful tools like the meal planner, and we also have an Ask a Dietitian feature, as well as a variety of other resources that are part of that, including a dietitian written blog, fact sheets, cooking demonstrations, and much, much more. So visit the site today. You can subscribe to our quarterly newsletter, to stay updated and never miss out on new content and tips. So we've added the link in the chat to sign up for that. Here at the Kidney Foundation, we're committed to being your trusted source for information and educational resources about kidney disease, as well as the support you need to empower your kidney journey. Through Kidney Connect peer support, you can connect one-on-one with one of our moderators who's experienced living with kidney disease. You can fill out the form through the link that's going into the chat, or you can call 1-866-390-7337 to submit a request. You can also register for a virtual peer support group by emailing peersupport@kidney.ca, or you can call that same number. And to connect online with others who have lived experience, just visit kidneyconnect.ca. For information to support you in your kidney journey in general, please visit our sites, kidneyinfo.ca and kidney.ca. Just remember, you're not alone. The Kidney Foundation is here for you. There are lots of great resources for you. As we connect together and we conclude today's webinar, we're also wrapping up a successful 2024 webinar series. So we're already planning sessions for next year, but we greatly value your feedback as we're putting together the list and the topics for next year. When today's webinar ends, your computer is going to open a new page that requests that you complete our webinar satisfaction survey. We'd really appreciate it if you filled it out. Your feedback is very important to help us continue to improve the webinar series and make sure that it reflects the needs of the community, the things that you're interested in hearing more about. The survey is available in both English and French, and you'll see a language button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen that will allow you to toggle between the two. So on behalf of the Kidney Foundation of Canada, thank you all for attending today's webinar and for being part of our 2024 journey. We look forward to seeing you again in the new year. Happy holidays and have a wonderful day.